Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. So today we're going to be looking at the phone bar for our SystmOne users, which is an improvement on our existing integration software, and will then give you an application in front of SystmOne that will give you access to all of the call details. So during today's session, we're going to be having a look at how to access that phone bar. We'll look at the settings that you can change within the phone bar and how it works with SystmOne. We'll have a look at the various phone bar icons and what they'll do for you. And we'll also have a look at how to control the calls on the phone bar itself. There are also active patient options so that you can contact patients directly through the phone bar when you have a patient active in SystmOne. And there's also an appointments list for any clinicians that will link to your SystmOne appointments list so that they can access those again directly through the phone bar. So to find the phone bar, once it's been installed on all the PCs and laptops within the practice, you'll have a new shortcut on your desktop. So you'll see the Surgery Connect logo, which is our orange circle here with a quarter taken out. And the first time that you open it, you'll need SystmOne open and unlocked. Phone bar will then go to an initial setup, which is screen by screen, and will lead all of the users through the setup there. And once the setup has been done, whenever that user starts up the PC, the phone bar will start automatically in the morning, and then logging into SystmOne will also log that user into the phone bar on that particular PC. So you can go through the whole of the setup service, and I've put some slide shots in there as well so that you can go through that setup process. And it will show you each slide as you go through there. Once the phone bar has been set up, it will appear as a little blue bar that's attached to your taskbar just down at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So what I'm going to do is, rather than go through the presentation now, I'm actually going to show you the phone bar on my screen and demonstrate it actually working with our SystmOne demo version. So I'm just going to close this presentation for a second. So this is my desktop here. Obviously, I've got two icons. So I've got SystmOne and I've got the phone bar. So normally, once I start up my laptop, because phone bar is already installed, it will then start up automatically in the morning for me. So you can see that now I've got the phone bar sat against my taskbar. If I expand the phone bar using the keypad, it will tell me to start using it. I need to log in to the clinical system. So I'm just going to log into our demo version of SystmOne here, which will then connect to the phone bar on my screen. Okay, so now you can see that I've expanded the phone bar here, and now it has more icons and they are all white. Now you can move the phone bar from left and right on the screen just by dragging and dropping. So you can move it anywhere where there aren't any messages there down at the bottom of SystmOne. I tend to move it to sort of the middle of the screen so that I can then keep the phone bar in place without needing to move it around too much. If you right click on the icon that will appear in your taskbar in the tray at the bottom, it will also let you close that phone bar window and remove it from the screen for you. Okay, so I've got my phone bar back here now, so I can move that again over here on the screen. Now, the first thing that you'll need to do once you've logged into the phone bar is actually change your availability status. So at the moment, it's showing me as offline, even though I'm logged in. So if I click on my availability here, I will have the different user statuses that I can then use on the system. So available as usual, making you available to make and receive calls. You've got your do not disturb function if you leave your desk. Particularly important if you're using the soft phone on any of our devices, because then the ringing tone actually goes through the USB headset that you've got plugged into your PC or laptop for all of the call audio. So if you are using the soft phone and having all of your calls going directly through a phone bar, we do recommend that you use a headset and use do not disturb whenever you leave your desk to stop any calls being presented to you whilst you're not actually there. Changing your status on the phone bar will change a little coloured dot, and that dot is also available in the directory on the phone bar so that you can see if a user is available or away from their desk before you actually go to call them or transfer a call through to them. There is also a direct calls only status, so just the same as there is at the moment. So that will give you access to internal calls and calls on your direct dial number, but you wouldn't be taking any calls through the queues if you're part of the team that answers the inbound calls from patients. With the SystmOne phone bar, where we've also incorporated the group management section in here. So any of your users that answer inbound calls from patients and are members of a group to answer calls can now step in and out of the groups directly through the phone bar. So there's no need for a standard user then to open up the user console to show which groups they're actually active in to answer those calls. And just ticking on the relevant group will then remove that user from the group. And if they click on it again, it will put the little tick back and make it go bold so that you know that you are active in that group to actually take those calls there. Once you've set your status, and I'll set mine as available. You can either click on the status again, or you can click on the little cross at the top, and that will then close down the status window. Now that I'm logged in and available, I could leave the phone bar in its minimized format, so it'll be quite a small imprint on your screen. And when a call comes in, the phone bar will automatically expand so that you can then see the details of that particular call. The various icons on the phone bar give you access to different areas of the system. So once you've logged in, the first thing that you can do would be to change your settings, and that will control how the phone bar works with SystmOne. Now, you'll only need to set these settings once, and then it will remember your selections. So if you want it to find patient records for inbound calls, then you can do that just by clicking on the settings cog. And just like our current integration, when a call comes in, Surgery Connect will automatically search your clinical database to see if you have any patients that match that contact number. And if you do, it will actually bring the patient details up on the screen for you. So in the preferences, in the settings, if you have the Find Patient Record for Incoming Calls activated, that will then automatically search SystmOne every time a call comes through to you. We'll turn Quick File off as a default. There is the option to file correspondence back to the patient's clinical record. So you can file a copy of a call recording or a text that you send out to a patient via the phone bar, or any photos that they send in the future. We'll also be able to file directly into the patient's clinical record. Most practices aren't doing that for every call, so we turn Quick File off as a default so it doesn't bring up an extra option after a call to ask you to file that into the patient's record. If you are using a headset, the audio and video settings will tell you the headset microphone and camera that's being picked up. And in the About section, you'll have the version number. And we're also looking at putting in the option to update the phone bar directly through the settings there as well. Once you've set your settings, you can leave the phone bar. I'm going to demonstrate an inbound call now so that you can see what happens when a call comes in. So whenever there's a call through, it will then go through the call flow, the same as normal. If the call is presented to the user to answer the call, it will then bring the details of that call up on the screen. Now, my mobile number isn't saved to any patient records yet, so it's not found any patients within the SystmOne clinical database, but I can answer that call now just by clicking on Answer on the screen. Now, I'm actually using my soft phone, so all of the calls are coming directly through the screen. I've just disconnected that call there. You can swap your device on this phone bar using the little device icon just on the left-hand side here. And if I click on the device icon, it will then give me the options of all the devices for my profile. I've added my mobile on here so I can forward my calls to my personal number if I need to. I've got my soft phone selected at the moment, so we can see that that one is showing that that's where I'm logged in, and all of my calls will go directly through the phone bar. You can also select any of the desk phones within the practice, and down at the bottom there is a box here so that you can search through all the phones within the practice, and it will give you a list of all the phones. If anybody's already logged into a phone, it will tell you so that you obviously don't select that phone, but you'd be selecting the phone then that's installed on the desk next to that particular PC if it's a desk phone that you'd rather use for all of your calls there. You can also set those phones as favorites, and they will then show in your device manager when you log in. So I've got a phone here favorited, and if I wanted to have all my calls on that desk phone, I can just click on the desk phone in the devices, and then all of my calls will go through that particular phone. I'm going to leave my soft phone selected though, just so that you can see what happens there. If you're calling anybody internally, there's also a contact book on the phone bar here. If I click on the contacts, it will go initially into my internal list of all the colleagues within the practice, and just next to their name, you'll have the little availability dot. So rather than on the user console where it colours their whole name, it will show you their availability with a little dot just on the left-hand side of their name there. If you hover over anything, it will tell you what it means. So if I hover over a green dot, it tells me that that user's available. Whereas if I go for Dr. Lorna here, she's on direct calls only, so only taking internal calls or calls on her direct number. There's also a click to call button next to each of the users, so it doesn't show you their extension number in the internal directory, and no matter which device you're using, if you're just ringing someone in the practice, you can click on the click to call button. If you're using a desk phone, it then rings your desk phone and then will make that internal call for you automatically when you answer that particular call. To see the groups within the practice, if you click on the directory icon just at the top of the contacts list, that will then show you the groups that you have set up within the practice. This is also a good place to find anybody's internal extension number. You can search for users and groups, and if you hover over the little click to call phone, it will then tell you the extension number that it's using there. So if you do need anybody's extension number, just use the directory and then hover over the phone next to that user or group, and it will tell you which short dial to dial on the desk phone if that's the way that you're doing it. The next icon here is our call history. So it will keep a call history for each user. If I click on my call history here, you'll see lots of repetition of my mobile number, but you'll see a list of all the calls. So both inbound and outbound calls, and any missed calls show on there as well. If it was a patient call, it's most likely to show their number, as it doesn't actually link with SystmOne in this area. But if it was an internal call, it will show you the group or the user that you actually went through to. And just like in the directory, there's a click to call button, and you can search through your call history as well. So you can call people directly through the call history, as well as going through the internal or the central directory feature there. The last two icons here are our active patient options and the appointments list. So I'm just going to search for a patient in SystmOne. Okay, so I've got a patient record open now, and Oliver is my active patient. So I can now use the active patient options in the phone bar, and that is also available in its minimized format. So if you need to call the patient, rather than going into the contact details to find their number and dialing that number manually, you can just click on the active patient option within the phone bar here. Now, there'll be a few icons that are grayed out depending on what the patient has on their clinical record. So Oliver doesn't actually have a telephone number. If he did, the call button would be in blue. And if you hover over it again, it will show you the number that it's going to use. It will also show you any alternative numbers from that patient's clinical record as well. And then you can just click on the number to actually dial the number. Alternatively, if they're on a temporary number for the day, you can also enter a phone number into the box to call the patient directly from there if they're on a different number than is saved on their clinical record. There are also options to send text messages, or there will be, and photo requests and video calls. Those functions won't be available initially on the phone bar, but they will be coming in very soon as an update. And updates on the phone bar would be done automatically. So any new features, you will automatically get those on your phone bar within the practice there. There's also the option here to file correspondence back to a patient's record. So if you've had any communications with that particular patient, you'll have a list of the communications here, and then you can select one or more and file that directly back into the patient's clinical record. The last icon that we've got here is our appointments list. So if I click on the appointments list, I've got a list set up within SystmOne, so it will bring up the details of my appointments list. We can see which user I'm signed in as at the moment, but obviously I can change that to anybody within the practice there. I've also got the date range here, and you can look forward in your appointments, as well as checking which site and type of clinic it is that this list is particularly for. So I've got everything selected at the moment, so this is all of my list. So we can see the status of the appointment. So this one is booked, and again, if you hover over it, it will tell you what our statuses mean here. You've also got some notes, so some extra information. So if there's any extra notes that have been added as part of that appointment, you can see those directly from the appointments list in the phone bar. You've got the date and time of that particular appointment and the patient name there. And if you've got a patient open, if you click on one of the other patients, it will then swap that patient record within SystmOne for you automatically. Clicking on the contact button will bring through their contact details just like the active patient. So that will then search the clinical record and bring back the relevant communication methods for that particular patient. And again, we can also file correspondence straight to the patient record directly from there as well. If you click actioned next to the appointment, it will cross it out in the appointments list. You do need still to complete your appointments. The consultations within SystmOne as normal there. Now, right on the end here, we've got our help guides. And if you go into the help section, it will have step-by-step instructions for the use of the phone bar on SystmOne there. And we will create an area there within our help pages so that you can get any assistance that you need. So we've had a look at our phone bar and accessing the phone bar once it's been downloaded onto your PCs and laptops via the icon on your desktop. We've had a look at the settings options and how you can change how the phone bar works with SystmOne. We've looked at the various icons available on the phone bar and also phone controls once that call has been connected. We've also looked at the active patient options and also the appointment list feature that you can access through the phone bar.